People can hear you. There we go. All right, tell the people who we got in the studio. Let's start with yourself.
Lamont Cole, East Baton Rouge Parish School Superintendent.
Cassie Cole, Southern University Hall of Famer.
I like Hall of Fame. And now look, now she flexing on us this morning. Cassie, what's going on?
Everything is everything. Everything is good.
You talking about being a Southern University Hall of Famer. You did track and field at Southern. Talk about that experience and how you became a Hall of Famer.
Well, let me start how Coach Johnny T recruited me from Southern Lab. I was first of all, let me back up a little more.
Okay, let's back it on up.
So University Laboratory School, we were undefeated in track and field for 4 years.
No
one in the
from
state.
The lab.
From the lab.
The lab, okay.
The lab.
When I go over there, I see how passionate they are about being the lab school.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We take pride. So all throughout my 4 years, nobody in the state of Louisiana can beat us. No one. So I believe Johnny T got a little taste of what the lab girls can do.
Uh-huh.
So he came over and recruited a couple of the girls. And 1996, I signed my scholarship to be a Southern University Jaguar.
Uh-huh.
Now, going into my experience at the university, Coach Thomas turned me into a hurdler. I didn't come as a hurdler. I came as a heptathlete. And a heptathlete, we do multiple events.
Uh-huh.
So I got to Southern University, and Coach Thomas said, "Girl, I'm going to make you out of a hurler."
Uh-huh.
So I got there, he made me out of a hurler. My first year, we were up and down. I didn't know if I would like being a hurler. But going into my sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, we had a hurdle relay team. And nobody in the SWAC could beat us. Not no one. No one beat us in the hurdle relay. So we became again SWAC. We won SWAC my first year. We won SWAC my second year, third year, and fourth year. So we won SWAC 4 times.
Okay.
I have rings to show it. So throughout my years, it's just something I enjoy doing. I ran track all my life. So being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I just kind of was like, oh, okay. It was just an award. But looking into it, it's kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a big deal. And being selected was a great honor. It was a great honor after I sat back and realized all the years I put into track and field and wanted to be recognized. And my kids are able to see that mommy was inducted into the Hall of Fame for track and field, and I didn't have to pay anything for college.
Mm-hmm.
Running paid my way through college. So my parents didn't have to come out the pocket for anything. I just ran my way through college. Ran my way through college. So being a Hall of Famer is an honor.
And you're talking about being able to use a God gift, right?
Yes.
Being blessed with a gift to be able to take you places, to do things, to accomplish things, and then to be able to put Hall of Famer behind your name. But you were the athlete. Talk about the student side of how that all came together, because you also, had to get a degree to being a part of that process.
Yes. So I am an educator now in East Baton Rouge Parish at the Community School for Apprenticeship Learning. I am a dean of students.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't play with you.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, sir.
You don't want to have to go see Mrs. Cole.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. So I received my degree at Southern University in education.
Mm-hmm.
In the education department at Southern University prepared me to become an educator. And of course, when playing sports, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, I'm going to go to the Olympics or I'm going to play in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have that education behind in case that doesn't work out. So I was able to get a degree in education, pursue my education degree, and also become a coach in the community.
Mm-hmm.
I coached track and field at Scotlandville High School. I coached at Madison Preparatory High School, and I was a coach at CCL. Currently, I'm not coaching because I am focusing on other things, but coaching is also a passion of mine. So along with me being an educator and combining coaching, it's just everything just falls into place.
Did you see yourself maybe one day falling into the world of education? Like, when you're young, everybody has this dream, a goal of maybe what I want to be. Maybe want to be an astronaut when I was a kid, but, things change. But, for me, it was marine biology, but then pivot, boom, here I am doing, media and just in that realm. For you, what was it before that you kind of saw yourself doing that ultimately
Oh no, I always wanted to be an educator.
Always?
Always from day one. I've always wanted to be in education.
Did
I've
you
always
come
wanted,
from a home of educators?
I did not.
Okay.
But being a student at Southern Lab and watching Miss Tyson, she's passed on now. Watching her as a student, she kind of was an influence on me. I've since day one, I've always wanted to be a PE teacher, which I was a PE teacher.
What about
Yes.
PE? What we talk? What was it about PE?
Hey, when you just have that being an athlete and having it going through your head 24/7, you want to give back.
Yeah.
You want to give back. So I've always wanted to be an educator. Always. Started in PE, moved my way up social studies, and now I'm dean. So
when a student walks into Mrs. Cole's office and there seems to be an issue, how does Mrs. Cole handle that issue? And I know it's various ways, but particularly for you.
Oh, well, first I have a relationship with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
When you build a relationship with your kids, you don't have that many problems because they know if you go to the office, Miss Cole's not going to cut any corners.
Mm.
So when I do have a student come in, I first talk with them. We find out what's the problem. Okay, let's solve the problem. Once we solve the problem, we make sure we're not going to revisit the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Once we come to that conclusion, we go back to class. Go back to class, do your work, because that's what we're here for. My policy, I want the kids at school. If we have them at home, what are they going to do at home? We need our babies in school.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to work out the problem in office, handle the problem in office, and once we both are on the same page, we won't have any more problems.
Let me ask you this. As an influencer, especially you going into the world of education, getting your degree from Southern University, who was the influence in terms of an educator on that campus at Southern for you that motivated, that pushed you?
Oh, it was so many. In the Department of Education, it was Dr. Help me out, Mr. Cole. He's your mentor, too. He's passed on. He was in education.
Roy Jacobs.
Dr. Jacobs. Dr. Jacobs was a great mentor for me in education. He helped me understand the meaning of an educator. Mm-hmm. He broke it down to where, okay, there's nothing else I want to do. He guided me, told me every up and down that I would face in education, and he just was that great mentor. And he made sure, okay, Cassie, this is what you want to do. This is what's going to happen some days. Some days it's going to be good. Some days it's going to be bad. But Dr. Jacobs, he was a great role model for me going through my degree at Southern University. He guided me all the way through till I walked across that stage.
Got to be the best feeling once you get a chance to get across that stage, and especially with all the accolades that came with you. Because I hear you bragging at that time. They said the swag stood for Southern wins another championship. So I'm pretty sure you was rocking that. You everywhere you was going at the meets, you was talking about that.
Well, the track team, we were a family. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying instead of going to the track meet and saying I did this, it's always we.
Yeah.
We did this because we were a family. We were a true family. Coach Thomas made sure that we had each other back. Everyone. If it was from the long jump to the disc to the shot put, everyone had each other back. The field events would be before the running events. So the runners would go watch the field events. Once the field events were done, those athletes would go on the bleachers and cheer for the runners. So we were a big family. We supported each other. So we all came into the track meets as, here go those Jaguars. Here they come. Here they come. And they knew once we hit that track, we were about business.
And that's what creates the lifelong memories of being able to go places like that. And as you said, with family,
yes.
The love, the support, and everything. And then not only that, winning.
That's
Put
right.
that all together, you'll never forget those type of memories. Those are the things who I think for a lot of people who are Southern alums, whether they were student athletes or just students, being able to meet people from all across the country and coming together, who could be a roommate, who could be just simply be a person you walk to the calf with.
That's
so
right.
a classmate, you know something about that calf, mate?
Oh, that calf. No,
hey, it's hurt when they say they went to the calf without you.
Oh.
What you mean you already been to the calf?
That's a hurt feeling right there. That's a hurt feeling right there, yes. And I'm glad you said student athlete because Coach Thomas made sure if your grades were not right, you would not step foot on that track. So it was work first and then track.
And that's how I teach my son and my daughter work before play.
That's right.
To handle your business and do it right the first time. Get it at, just pay attention, focus, do it right the first time, handle your business, and you got all day to do all that other stuff.
That's right.
But if you don't, you got to come back and do it the second, the third, or fourth time. Now you're wasting all the time in the world that you could have had to do everything else you wanted to do.
That's right.
So let's get ready to take a break. When we come back on the other side, I got to chop it up with my man, Lamont Cole. He's in the store. He's just like, hey, y'all done put me to the side, but it's all good. Radio, turn it up a little bit louder. Got some good guests here in the studio. Good morning to everybody watching across the country on our YouTube channel. Glad to have you guys with us. Hit that subscribe button. If you not have done so already, it is free. It costs you nothing. Just love and support, and that's all we ask. Don't need your birth certificate. We don't need your social security number. We don't need none of that. Just your support. Clicking on that button, get a notification every time we go live. And for everybody watching on our Facebook Live, good morning to you across the various groups on Facebook and the various pages. Glad to have you guys with us as well. Hit that like and follow button. Good guest here in the studio this morning. Lamont and Cassie Cole here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You ready?
Always.
Okay. Well,
You ain't got to wonder about me. Always.
He say don't worry about him. Don't wonder about him. My man Lamont Cole here in the studio. He is the superintendent of the East Baton Rouge school system. And picking this up, right, you have been heavily involved in the Baton Rouge community for a very long time. I saw you got your education started in terms of the teaching side and working with students in 1988 in Brooklyn, New York.
That's right.
Talk about being getting that started up in New York and, working your way and coming back.
Listen, I come from a family of educators, both on the fraternal and maternal side. Both my grandmothers worked in education for a long time. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, actually, and I lived there until I was 7. And then we moved to Baton Rouge in 1980. And then I went back and forth to New York during the summer. My dad was in New York. My mother was here. When I was 14 years old, working in New York City in the summer youth program, I worked at the daycare center with my grandmother. I observed, she ran the daycare center, but I was a classroom teacher's aide. And so I worked with small kids. At 14 years old, I was working with the 4 and 5-year-olds. And we were working to ensure they were getting a good education, a good experience in the summer, learn how to be a supervisor, learn how to monitor. We took the kids on a lot of field trips during the summer all over New York City, to the museums, to the zoo, to the restaurants. And so I learned how to be responsible as it relates to supervising young people. So when I finished high school and went to college, I did a whole lot of stuff. And unlike my wife, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Although I had had some experiences in the field of education, I didn't know which direction I wanted to go in. And like a lot of people, I changed my major about 12 times. Didn't know.
Hey, I know that story. I've been there.
Yeah.
Major and schools.
Didn't know what path I was going to take. And when I graduated from college, undergrad at LSU, I actually had plans to follow in my mother's footsteps and be a social worker.
Okay.
My mother is a social worker and a mental health therapist, and I was working at Federal Express in the afternoon from 4 to 9. And during the daytime, I would just be sitting around doing absolutely nothing. Go to work at 4, get off at 9, stay up all night messing around, and then sleep all day. And one day my mother said to me, you need to figure out something to do during the daytime. Don't waste your life. Maybe you should go sub. And so I had a good friend of mine, still great friends today, who I graduated with. His name is Darcy Franklin. He was substitute teaching. I told him I was interested because my mother said the same thing to both of us. We were doing the same thing. He started about 2.5 months before me. He told the director of supervision, Pam Mackey, that I might be interested. She reached out to me. I started my career in education professionally in 1998. So 10 years later from starting as a teacher's aide to 10 years from 88 to 98, I started as a classroom teacher, teaching social studies at a Struma Middle Magnet. Young lady at the time by the name of Katie Blunchy gave me my first opportunity. And so when I started teaching, the first reality hit me was that the money was good. I got my first check. It was $883.27. And I felt like, every day was Christmas and every night was New Year's Eve. I was going to go to the mall and buy myself something. And so I said, decent money, good hours. get an opportunity to be around kids. I was very young at the time. I was 23 years old, able to still run and play with the kids at PE. It was just a good time in my life. I felt good about things, so I decided to pursue the career. And if I was going to do that work, I wanted to go back to the school where I was educated. So I walked in Capital Middle one day because I went to school at Capital Junior High School. Those out there in the listening audience know the difference between Capital Junior High and then it transitioned to Capital Middle. You know, if you could walk home down Gus Young when you went to Capital Junior High, you were considered to be respected in the school. And so I didn't walk home in sixth grade. Couldn't walk home in sixth grade. I'm not going to tell no tales. We couldn't walk home in sixth grade. By the time I got to eighth grade, I could walk home. So I had established myself in the community with my peer group in eighth grade. I know that sounds interesting to say, but that's just how intense school was. So I went back into the school, met the principal at the time, Jane Gillette, told her my story, and she said, I'm going to give you a chance. So Marie Katie Blunt, and then Jane Gillette started teaching, started coaching basketball. And at the time, I realized if I'm going to be in this profession, I want to go all the way to the top. That was my plan way back in 1998. But ultimately, my ultimate goal, Brother Perry, was to be the principal at Capital Middle. That is what I wanted to do. I had planned my life in 1998. I said I was going to coach, I was going to teach, and then I was going to do that for about 25 years. And then towards the tail end of my career, I would become a principal and then come back to Capital Middle and be the principal. Well, I was able to accomplish that instead of 25 years. I was able to accomplish that in 8. So I taught 5 years at Capital Middle, was an assistant principal at Seaside Middle, as well as McKinley Middle Magnet School, and then Westdale Middle. And then 3 years later, I was the principal at Capital Middle. So things happened real quick for me in terms of leadership. Was able to be real successful at Capital Middle with the leadership team we put together there. We did a lot of great things for the school. We did a lot of great things for the students in the community. So I was really excited about that work. But after 2 years, I was doing so well in leadership. I was engaged in the community. At the time, I was the president of the local chapter of the NAACP. And so in addition to working in the school, I was in the community doing a lot of things, voter registration, voter impact. We had community town halls about various things that were happening in the community. Anytime we saw that there was injustice, we challenged the injustice. We marched, we protested. We did everything we could to help better the community. And that was my volunteer time as president of the NAACP. And then during my daily walk, I was an educator in schools working with students. And so being very active in the community, things started to take off and people started to reach out to me about other opportunities. So I took an opportunity to go work with another organization. After only being a principal for 2 years, I transitioned to being a chief academic officer for an organization called Advanced Baton Rouge at the time. And so I did that for a while and realized I missed being with kids because that was really about the bureaucracy of education, the bureaucracy of dealing with the State Department of Education at the time, working in schools, helping to supervise principals. And while the prestige of the position at the time was a lot of fun for me mentally, I missed being around students. I missed being in schools, helping teachers, motivating, encouraging, inspiring, and working with parents. I missed it all. So actually, I went from being a principal to a chief academic officer back to being an assistant principal. I took a pay cut and went back to being an assistant principal, but I only was able to do that for 6 weeks. 6 weeks later, I was promoted to principal again at Park Forest Middle School this time around. And so I decided at that time I was going to stick around for a while. I was going to be principal there. You know, believe it or not, for a short period of time, the principal at Capital Middle transitioned away, and I was principal at Park Forest Middle, and they asked me to be principal at both schools. So I was the principal at Capital Middle and Park Forest Middle for about 6 months. I started my day in the morning time at one school and went to the other school in the afternoon. And I know, you know, some people have done that in this city, but for me to be able to do it at Park Forest and at Capital was a phenomenal experience. Then a good friend of mine who was the CEO at the Community School for Apprenticeship Learning Incorporated, known in the city as CSAL Inc., reached out to me and said, listen, I'm opening these schools and I need your help. And I said, all right, man, I'll consider it. Let me think about it. And then he called me again. And he said, listen, man, I need you to come help me. I said, nah, I'm going to stay where I'm at Park Forest Middle because I didn't want to leave the kids. And then he reached back to me. Then one night I was at home minding my business, and someone knocked on the door. And I went to the door, and it was him standing outside. And he said, listen, man, I need my friend to come have my back. And when he asked me that way, I said, you got it. So, a lot of great things. And I can tell you the next part of the story because, I can go all day now.
I can do now. I just got to do we got the Coles in the house.
Right here, right now. Right here, right now.
Lamont Cole, the superintendent of the East Baton Rouge school system.
Yes,
Cassie, you are the dean of students at the
Community C-Cell Middle.
C-Cell Middle. Okay,
yes.
We're
going to say it short.
I'm going to put that in my mind. I'm going to say it 3 times, and I'm going to have it. Listen, I want to have a conversation with you guys because you were explaining your background and how you got here. And listen, school will be out on Tuesday because of weather, right?
That's right.
Now, you from New York. You going to pull out your Timbs on Tuesday?
I got them on right now.
You got your Timbs. Okay, now I just want to know about your Timbs. You got your Timbs. You're going to have the hat.
That's right.
That's right. You're going to finally get you some cold weather on Tuesday.
A little bit.
Little bit. Yeah, that's what we can. It's
have
not
a little
normal
winter
here.
weather. A little winter weather. We go a little crazy when it gets cold, particularly if there's going to be snow, which I hope there is snow because for so many students in our school system, they've never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll have an opportunity to see it. One of the conversations we had yesterday when we were making the decision to close school on Tuesday was whether or not to have the students go virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said to staff, listen, I'd rather make up a day in the afternoon based on the number of minutes we're supposed to be in school than have the kids be virtual if it's snow outside. For many of our students, they were not alive the last time it snowed in Baton Rouge. And so many of them have never had the opportunity to make a snowman, play in the snow, be outside, feel the frost of playing with snow too long and your hands start hurting.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are experiences I believe young people should have, particularly in an area like this. So we closed school without asking families to go virtual and take devices home. We want them to have fun, cherish the opportunity, and be in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. Be in the moment should it snow in Baton Rouge on Tuesday. And listen, I hope it does snow.
Yeah.
So, the last time it snowed in Baton Rouge, my son wasn't born, so he's never seen snow. And so just to have that opportunity.
He's looking like.
It's going to be a lot of fun. He has no clue. My daughter was here, but my son wasn't. And so we looking forward to it.
Let me ask you this, as we talk about that and very thoughtful to understand that it's more to it than just saying closing school and just we're going to go virtual. You actually thought about the experience that goes along with it. I think that's why you're the right man for the job because when you look at overall thing, it's more than just business all day, every day. You're looking at what can these young people gain from an experience, even something as simple as snow because of the memories. Let me ask you this because this is one of the conversations that I've had with educators, both on the collegiate side and further down. It is a new generation of students that's out there. And being a father myself, I have a 16-year-old daughter and I have an 8-year-old son. What I'm realizing with them, growing up, for me, everything was oral, told to you. Do it because I said so. And you did it. Kids today, to me, seem to not necessarily go by words, but they're so visual because everything is what they're doing now. It's visual. It's whether, like you said, even going to school virtually. Everything that they see. So it's almost show me better than you can tell me because it seemed to me this new generation, they take words lightly. You got to show them in action. You have to present it to them for them to see it, to believe it, because the words, it's just, I hear you, but I want to see it. So for you guys as educators, and I'll start with you, Cassie, because on the other side, you are a dean. So sometimes you're dealing with the discipline side of things in terms of what's happening. For you, when you're looking at young people today, what do you see one of the biggest changes in how they are evolving and how maybe sometimes educators and parents and the community may not have since figured out how to keep up with them?
Oh, well, you hit it right on the head with the visual. Social media is it's taking over our kids' minds as far as
It's like a drug.
it's a drug.
Yeah, and they can't live. They just got to pick the phone up.
Yes.
And just got to
Yes. And so now with the new law, we have the new law, no phones in schools. So at first when school started, I was like, oh my God, how are we going to handle this? Because the kids, it's like they cannot move without having the phone in their hands. But so far at my school, I can say for my babies, they've been okay. They've been okay because we've been doing more activities with them. And as far as we have what we call Celebration Friday. We do what I did for Thanksgiving. We did a Spirit Week. So I had turkeys around the school, and they had to do like a scavenger hunt. And it's things that you do with them to kind of get their mind off of this social media thing. Showing them different ways they can do things without referring back to social media. These songs, these rap songs. If you could memorize all the words of a rap song, you can go in the classroom and learn the same thing. It's just, I have a math teacher at my school. She made a TikTok song that they know on TikTok and related it to math. And those kids were spitting out those numbers, didn't even realize they were saying them because she put it in a TikTok song. So they were able to relate the TikTok song to math. So I think just maybe combining or getting down to, okay, this is how they understand, so let's try it this way. Let's try it.
And we can't, I think, as we evolve, because look, I know as I was coming up, I had the older generation looking at me like, hey, y'all just don't understand, man, and during my time and my day. And you have to evolve to understand that the world is different for these young people.
It's very different.
For me, I grew up through tape, CD, going to MP3 player, going, floppy disk to thumb drive.
Putting the paper inside the tape so you can record off the radio. Y'all remember putting that in the disc?
Record and play on, and I used to listen to the Quiet Storm.
That's it.
All right.
They'll
what you looking like that for? You know about the Quiet Storm?
Night Prince. Absolutely.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
And then, but at the same time, I grew up in a time if I needed information, I had to go through the library. I had to go through and look at the categories of book. There was a way of doing things in which now you just pick this up and everything is here.
Everything.
There's the process, the systems, and they always used to say trust the process as it relates to doing things. Everything seems like a shortcut now because you're able to just quickly find it, quickly look it up, and in the process, it makes you feel like you know it, but you just looked it up. You may not have retained it, you just said it in that moment. And for you, I'm going to ask you, because now, looking at the whole school system, your vision in terms of having to evolve with this new age of learning from young people.
I see that a little bit differently in terms of how we deal with our children. There are so many things in our world that have changed, but the human being is still the same. Most human beings still have, 10 fingers and 10 toes, and our bodies still operate the same. And so our mental capacity, we still need to be loved. We still need to be fed. We still need to be made to feel appreciated. And so for me, my approach, while these things are happening, is to not try to be different in terms of how we treat kids, but change our responses to them based on what we know they're experiencing. And so how do we, in our engagement with young people, give them a positive experience? Here's a tip. Oftentimes, we as parents ask our kids, how was your day? And our kids might say good, might say fine, and then we transition to the next question, which is, what did you do today? What did you learn today? Well, change the response. Most times, my kids don't even realize when I ask them that question and they say it was good, I respond with the last three things they said. So if they say it was good, I respond, it was good, and then I make them respond differently. So at this point, I'm engaging with them a little bit differently to foster a conversation to give my children a different experience. I use the same things with students. Talk to them, engage, try to have an experience, try to have a connection with them. And oftentimes, as we do those things and we show interest, you recognize they're not even paying attention to the devices. They're not even thinking about that. They're trying to engage in a conversation with you. Some of the strategies and techniques I use as a principal to motivate and encourage kids, I use them as the superintendent. Yesterday, I was at an elementary school and I went into class and had a conversation with some kids about Martin Luther King. It's his holiday. We're celebrating him Monday. And so at the end of the conversation, I wrote an email to the whole entire school system and told them, it was Celebration Friday. I'm going to go back to the school, have a pizza party with those students and give them a different experience. I don't know how often students in our school system actually get an opportunity to have lunch with the superintendent. So I'm going to go back to the school. I'm going to buy pizzas out of my own pocket, let me be clear, and sit down, have that, and give children a different experience. So when they see me in the community or on television, they can say, I know that man. I talked to him. He came. He sat on the floor with us. He ate with us. So I think if we change our responses in terms of what we know kids are exposed to, right, we can get the response we're looking for. Because I'm old school. So when I tell my kids, because I said so. When you say you
old school, what does that mean?
Well, when I tell my kids I said so.
That's because of what?
Because I said so.
All right, then. That's what I like.
I still ask my kids to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, yes, sir, and no, sir to us.
You got to
look. Any adult.
You have a certain look.
They know. They know. They got it in here a couple of times, so they know. But they're good kids, outstanding young people.
Yep.
But I think you have to change the responses. There's some old school to it. There's some new school, and then you recreate a different experience, and then they are motivated, encouraged, and inspired to do great.
Because I always say, you never know a background. You never know what a kid is dealing with at home, and a lot of kids have untapped potential. All the potential in the world, but unfortunately at home, it's a lot of things pulling them back. It's a lot of things distracting them. It's a lot of things in community sometimes that keeps them from being able to tap fully into their potential. And one of the things I dealt with that I saw, because I went to school in Arkansas, and the high school I went to had a little over 2,000 students, right? And it was a pretty big school, but it was, I guess we could say, of course, hood. Right?
Absolutely. Underserved.
You understand what I'm saying? Urban, I guess, if you want to say.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there were students who came from good households, two-parent household, middle class. Unfortunately, and I have this conversation all the time because I grew up in the hood. I had a one-parent household. The community and environment around me was not conducive of success, but in our home, it was. It was. When I got home, outside of those doors, when I stepped inside of those doors, it was about education. It was about your future. It was about morals and values. It's about how you carry yourself. Who are you? It was about character. Now, when I stepped outside, of course, and that's where the conversation is leading, acceptance. And as young people, especially in this world of social media, acceptance is big. And even then, when it wasn't social media, it goes back to the kids who actually came from good houses, who parents could give them the world. But when they got to school, the vast majority of kids may not have or did not come from that background. So to want to be accepted and so-called didn't want to be the lame, didn't want to be the good kid, they transitioned from accepting that you have resources. Tap into those resources. You come from a good background, that is okay, to where they transitioned to want to be something else other than what they were. And I saw a lot of people who I went to school with went down the wrong path because of that, of wanting to be accepted by the wrong group. And I always told people, hey, listen, the people who you think you want to be accepted by, they will switch and change positions with you in a heartbeat to have your resources. Because growing up, I thought if you had a brick house, you were rich, especially if you had 2 cars. Like, man, y'all got it going on over here. But that was one of the things. Do you see that where you have kids who, because you have a culture that we see, unfortunately, especially, and I'm going to say with black culture because of rap and just this, kids are mean today.
Yeah, it's a huge popularity
They're
contest.
mean.
Oh, yeah, huge popularity contest. Kids want to be popular, in any environment, any community, any social setting. There's something people do that is popular, and when it becomes popular, other people want to do it. What we try to teach our children is to be leaders. Every day I ask both of my kids, are you a leader? Why? Because I believe in myself, right? Do you have integrity? Why? I tell the truth and do the right thing when no one is looking. And so you have to instill those leadership characteristics, and you have to instill the essence of self-esteem, which is to believe in yourself and think for yourself. And so I think far too often we don't instill that in people. When we think about safety, the first thing we ask is who are your parents, what's going on, and then be safe. But oftentimes, even in that, I tell my daughter and my son every single morning, be a leader today.
Yeah.
Don't follow behind people. If there's something someone else is doing and you do it because you want to do it, then that's fine. But if there are things you see people doing and you know better, do better.
Well, trends, are steering our young people in. I want to see, how do we make smart, intelligent, cool? How do because it's easy to make everything else look cool, tough, hard, and that seemed to be the way that a lot of kids, and then it comes with this aggression, it comes with anger. How do we instill, and I always say you can start from when they're young and teach them up. How do we instill, it's okay, how you doing, nice, speaking, engaging, respect? Because I always said, we cussed and everything else when we were young. When we was among, hey, you get us amongst you, we say everything under the sun. But it was when adults came by, you left it alone. It was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir. Then after they walked away, we went by. There was a respect for when people were in front of you. Now respect is it's like, I'm gonna say it in front of you.
Yeah.
How do we change that with our young people? And I'm asking, because being smart means something. Having intelligence means something. It changes and gives you opportunity. College may not be for everybody, but to be a productive citizen in your community can mean a lot.
Yeah, I think we've gotten away from the connectivity of the school, church, law enforcement, and all of those forces working together to create a better environment. Right now, we're all disconnected. When we see students or children in our community being disrespectful, we blame their parents. Mm-hmm. But we forget, years ago, parents were oftentimes in the church. And as a result of being in the church with members of the community who worked in various sectors of life, in law enforcement, teachers, the principal, everybody was there together.
It took a village to raise a child.
That's what I'm getting to.
That's
because ultimately, the more people who are speaking the same language to young people and not tolerating any level of disrespect from them creates an essence of being. So we have to be the example we want to see. But it's not just one person. The principal can't tell you to be respectful, but then you go home and your parent allows you to be disrespectful. Mm-hmm. Parents can't come to schools and be disrespectful to school leadership and then expect the school to tolerate their children being disrespectful. We all have to model the behavior we want to see as adults. And we don't have to be on the same page around what is important and what is the essence of good citizenship, as you just said. We don't have that. We lost that connectivity. So I think if we as adults start to think about how do we connect ourselves to each other around some very, very simple principles about citizenship, about being a good person, about believing in God, about trusting who you are because of where you come from, I think we can encourage and teach students how to be what we used to be growing up. But I think we've gotten away from that as a result of people chasing the popularity. I want to be the first one. I want to be the it pastor. I want to be the top law enforcement person. I want to be the most popular, this or that, instead of focusing on I want to be what kids can aspire to be by teaching them how to be. And so I think we shift some things, we get there.
I think another thing kids have to understand, failure is common.
Yep.
Failure builds character.
That's right.
Social media and everything that they see makes everything look like everything is always going to be good.
Yeah.
And when the first sign of failure, the way society now, they point the finger like, you failing, when they know they failing too. But it's like, you failing? Well, everybody else doing so good. It must be a problem with you. And I think at the same time, that helps center towards what we're dealing with now, what they say, the mental depression. It's a lot, but we used to didn't think it was a lot.
Right.
It was taught to you, you're going to fail. Tough times are going to come. Things are going to happen that, you just going to have to see through it. That's what my mom used to tell me all the time. Hey, figure it out. Come up. I grew up learning solutions. We didn't focus on the problem. She said, I listened to the problem the first time because that's the initial time. and I listen to it the second time because obviously you're trying to figure it out.
That's right.
After that, I don't want to hear the problem no more. I need to hear a solution towards the problem. Start giving me steps on how you're going to get past it, because we can't sit here and talk about the problem all day. That's how I was able to get past failure, but it was taught to me, hey, every bird that jump out the nest don't fly first time.
That's right.
No.
You're going to hit the ground and you're going to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to stop you. You're going to give up. You're just going to become prey to something, or you're going to figure it out. And so I try to teach that even with my kids. It's okay to have failure.
That's right.
But it's okay to learn from failure. Don't make the same mistakes over and over. Figure it out. Get yourself in a better position. And if it's something you don't know, ask me.
That's it.
Let me know. I can't read minds, but I also will, like you said before, I'm going to figure out how to talk to you. I'm going to figure out how to ask questions, because we got to engage our young people better.
Absolutely.
They are becoming, because of the phone, not so social. We got to pull them out the shells, and then we got to open them up to be social, because it's happening in the classroom. It's happening out there in the real world. And what are they going to do when it's time for them to get jobs and be what we talked about, productive citizens?
That's right.
That's it.
I appreciate you guys for coming in. Look, hey, man, I'm loving this, because I love to sit down and be able to have conversations with educators, because that is a world that is fascinating, because you are dealing with the youth, you are dealing with the future, and I think that's a beautiful thing, is shaping that.
Well, Perry, we're going to ask you to come into our schools and mentor and engage and inspire some kids by telling them what you do.
Please.
That is the reality of the system, that more people who are outside of the system need to be in the system sharing with our kids. So you're not a winner or a loser, young people. You're a chooser. Choose to win every day. Win the day.
And I accept, man, listen, I love young people, and you got to keep it real with this young generation.
Absolutely.
You can't you got to tell them
Can't
the real.
sugarcoat anything.
You can't sugarcoat anything. So, hey, anytime you need me, I promise you, I'll talk to as many kids as possible, because I have a journey as well, and I've been in their shoes. I understand, just like many others, what it's like to have failure, what it's like to come from nothing, but at the same time, what it's like to have something built inside of your character. And the main thing for me, fortunately for me, I had educators who saw that, what I talked about, that untapped potential, pulled me to the side and gave me some real words.
Absolutely. If it weren't for educators in this town like Alex Hayes, Bert Lewis, Bond, Michael Banks, Herman Bristol Sr., and the list goes on and on.
Yourself.
And on. All the people who poured into my life. But listen, thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to sit here and chat with you. And thank you for what you do in our community. I've been watching you for a while, so thank you so much for coming here to Baton Rouge and working in our community the way you do. So we appreciate everything you do as well, Brother White.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Cassie, Lamont Cole. The Cole's in the house there.
Right here.
The Cole.
Right now.